We're live.
And
Y- You
here we
always
go.
trick me. Hello, hello, hello. Favorite introduction of all time is rocking and rolling. Miss Sia, how are you today? And most importantly, aren't you sick of me yet?
I am never gonna get sick of you, darling.
Yeah, that's what
No,
they
I
all
can't. I
say.
can't. I believe in you too much, so I can't get sick of you. Aren't you
All
lucky?
right. Yes, I am very lucky actually. And for those of you that don't know what we're referring to, I was so lucky to have Sia spend a week with me in Chicago last week, working on some business, taking in some just amazing events, helping support Cure Epilepsy on Thursday night to raise nearly $2 million for their efforts. And she was just by my side the entire way as a great friend and support system. And there we are, yeah, at the red carpet event at Madame Zuzu's in Highland Park. So kind to be able to go there and watch the first few episodes of Billy Corgan's Adventures in Carneyland and see how you got to shake his hand. I know that was kind of one of the highlights of the week for you.
Hell yeah, it
Have you
was.
have
Okay,
you
there's
washed
no look,
have you
people.
washed your hand yet?
I have washed my hands. I mean, look, I may have not washed my shoulder, but that's a different issue, and which we could talk about with the gentleman on the right hand side. Okay, look, my like 70s, 80s, and 90s, cool kids. I won't say I had crushes on them because I didn't really have crushes, but I just admired them like no other. Uh, I met them what 3 days apart. That's like hella cool.
Yeah, yeah. You went from the Smashing Pumpkins and the great event celebrating Adventures in Carneyland at Madame Zuzu's to a couple nights later supporting Cure Epilepsy and me being the auctioneer that evening and getting to meet not only the guy you had who's a poster on your wall growing up, like you said, but also Miguel Cervantes, who was Hamilton and over 2,000 shows on Broadway. Like yeah, we were just a star-studded week, and it was just such an honor. Most importantly, to uplift, Cure Epilepsy and the great work they do, funding research for that amazing organization working to cure that, terrible disorder. But what were some of the highlights of you being there that night, Sia?
Look, okay, so it was amazing to see how passionate Billy Corgan is. So for those love, like, hate, Smashing Pumpkins, doesn't matter. The fact that he's really passionate about of what he does. He understands that some of his business ventures are money losses for him, but he doesn't care, and he's going to make it profitable. So, Adventures in Carneyland, you guys, National Wrestling Alliance. I got to hang out with some of the wrestlers on in Dallas on Saturday. So I came home from Chicago on Friday and then went to the Crockett Cup tournament on Saturday. And let me tell you, man, sold out. They oversold. It was standing room only. So we know the message of what Billy's doing is getting out. And it's exciting to see, man. And I didn't think I was a wrestling fan, but I think I'm a fan now. It was so fun. So
I
fun.
But what about Thursday? We were talking about Thursday and Cure Epilepsy, and you were able to hang out with Miguel and I and get to see Rick Springfield perform and, just most importantly, see all the amazing work that organization, Cure Epilepsy, is doing to fund research to find a cure for that terrible disorder. And you looked beautiful in your gown, and I mean, it was just a really great night. What are your takeaways from that?
Oh yeah, so just to see so many people in a room, to raise $1.9 million to find, research to cure epilepsy. The stories of the families affected by epilepsy is really heartwarming and touching. As far as there is a possibility if we continue with the research and continue supporting organizations like Cure Epilepsy, to help people live a better life. Man, you can't not get the bug. And I will say, the people there were generous and gracious. Every single person I had met there. So shout out for David and Susan Axelrod to create a foundation and the team. Madeline, shout out to Madeline and the crew. to create an environment where the volunteers were appreciated and everyone in there was living in gratitude. So shout out for that. That was my big takeaway, was the amount of power and love in the room.
Yeah, no, mine too. And speaking of power and love, and you got to dance with Rick Springfield and experience a little of the human touch, if you will, right? Like, if you haven't seen, I think I shared a video at some point earlier this week on LinkedIn, and of you dancing with and just hopping along afterwards, like the most excited I've ever seen you. Like, what was that like for you?
Dude, look, I will repost that video in the future under my own profile as well. But full disclosure, everyone, he came up and grabbed me. So when you actually see the video starting, my hand is on his hand. It's because I didn't expect him to pull me into him and sing, human touch. So I was kind of like taken for once. I was taken by surprise. I'm like, oh my god, his hand is on my shoulder. So yeah, no, it was, and I did hop like a bunny rabbit afterwards. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And it's so funny, real quick, and we're going to get to our guest here shortly, but you're so kind to be wearing another one of my passion in Walking Tall organization's logo of what I'm partnering with Todd and Vanetta and doing some great work in the mental health space. And it's just that, right? The human touch, helping somebody up, putting your hand on somebody's back who's assisting others. And when I think of that logo, it's exactly what I think of. About Dave Silver, who's our next guest, right? And the
Yes.
amazing work that Dave does on a daily basis for his organization, Operation Yellow Ribbon, and not only for veterans and soldiers here in the United States, but the efforts he puts forth to uplift soldiers and our brave servicemen and women overseas is just really inspiring. And I can't imagine how much better the mental health of those soldiers of ours are because of the work he does. And I have some great stories about how Dave has walked tall for me that we'll get to when he comes on the show. But see, I'm just so excited for you to get to meet Dave. We have so many passions, so many things in common. And I know our visitors and our watchers, viewers, whatever you want to call them, are going to feel the same. So I know you've had enough of me. I haven't had enough of you yet, but I'm going to kick you backstage. And if you don't mind, let's bring Dave to the stage.
Let's do it.
There he is, my guy, Mr. Dave Silver. Dave, I'm going to just do a brief introduction of you and then let you take over for a few minutes to introduce yourself. But man, I just can't thank you enough for joining me. As much as I value and really, really, really care for what you do with Operation Yellow Ribbon, I want to let you know, man, like you've done just as much, if not more, for me personally. And just because of that is an honor having you on, and it's my honor to uplift all you do. So please, if you don't mind, introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, what Operation Yellow Ribbon is all about, and then I'll ask some questions moving forward. But just know, man, I love you, and I just can't thank you enough for joining me today.
Well, thanks for the introduction, Chris, and the check will be in the mail for those nice
All right.
words.
Perfect.
But yeah, so I mean, first of all, before I get into me, and I just want to thank you. First, I'm honored to be here today. But what you're doing is amazing. A lot of people watching might be watching for the first time that support me and Operation Yellow Ribbon, so they might not know your story. But thank you for using, you turning darkness into light, a tragedy that you participated in not long ago that caused some mental health issues for you and some PTSD and things like that. And now using that to turn it into something positive and give other people a chance to say it's okay to, deal with those things and express how they feel. And you're a very strong person. So I'm grateful to get, to know you, not only that, but just as my friend. So thank you.
Yeah.
As for Operation Yellow Ribbon, we're an all-volunteer 501c3 nonprofit here in what we call South Jersey. If you're familiar with New Jersey, it gets caught in the middle between Pennsylvania and Philadelphia and New York City and New York. And we're very protective and proud of being from South Jersey, where there's lakes and trees and the Pine Barrens for those.
All right, so is that the boss? Is that the boss or John Bon Jovi? Where are we at? Like, what side of Jersey?
Neither.
Oh,
we're right across from Philadelphia.
All right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we're all volunteers. we work hard each and every week to, we do two things, but the first thing and the thing that takes up the most energy, time, and money is we like to, what we call send a hug in a box. And we send thousands of pounds each month of care packages, and that includes snacks and hygiene items to our brave men and women deployed over in the Middle East and in harm's way at times, and just give them a taste from home, a touch from home. When they open up that box, we like to think a big hug from a bunch of strangers in New Jersey comes out and says, thank you for your service and for helping other people across the globe. And then the other thing we do here in South Jersey, and we partner with the Warriors Watch Riders motorcycle group and a bunch of other patriotic motorcycle groups in the area, and as well as local towns and their first responders, is what we give what we call rock star welcome home surprise greetings when they come back from deployment. And the reason why we do that is a generation, 2 generations ago, when our brave men and women came back from Vietnam, they were spit on. So we like to make sure that never happens again, at least on our watch here, and use the freedom we're given and protected, the freedoms protected and provided by our brave men and women serving, to gather safely and use our energy and time to say thank you and welcome home.
I just got goosebumps, man. Like, I know what you do, right? Like, I've been a supporter of OYR for many years, and while I can't fund the whole organization, I wish I could. Hey, maybe that's Eddie calling? Is that EV? Okay, we'll talk later about
That's
that. But
spam.
all right, deal. But listen, I know what you do, right? I've been well aware, and I've done my best to help support as best as I can out of pocket, because I believe so much in what it is you do. But just hearing the words come out of your mouth, gives me goosebumps. And I just can't imagine what receiving one of those hugs in a box or one of those rock star welcomes feels like for, our servicemen and women. But, tell a little bit about why did you choose to get into what OYR is all about? How did you choose veterans in our service to support? There's a million interests I'm sure you have, mental health, etc. But why did you choose, the line of what you did for OYR?
Yeah, well, how much time do we have on this podcast? It's a pretty encompassing story, but basically, try to summarize it. It was a combination of a few things. It was more or less being upset with myself that I was taking freedoms for granted. I was, living my life, living the American dream. Went to college, bought a house with a fence, wife, kids, all that stuff, and really not, just cruising by life and not being grateful, but in the background, knowing what was going on with our service members and their families were, sacrificing with their service and deployments. And I come from a family and a history, a background where family members were suffered and were murdered, during World War II and before World War II, just for being who we were born to being, and taking that for granted here in America, and being a miracle, to be here, both sides of my family's, the generations, for all the things that had to line up to get lucky enough where, my ancestors got out of Germany and out of Ukraine and out of Russia and out of Poland before things got really bad for the Jewish people. And be free here in America. No, I don't have to worry about that, ever again, because of our service members and because of the greatest generation that went over there and made huge sacrifices to free the world. But then I got lucky. Like I had this energy. I was upset with what was going on in Iraq and Afghanistan, and not to get political, it wasn't a political thing. It was just I saw things not right, and it was bothering me, and I didn't know what to do with that energy. And I got lucky here in my hometown of Marlton, New Jersey. I ran into a mom and dad who were volunteering for, back then it was called the Yellow Ribbon Club. And I saw yellow ribbons on their cars, and I asked them what it was about. I knew it had to do with supporting the troops. And they told me, and they invited me out to a meeting, and I got involved with them. I raised them a couple $1,000s, and then they invited me to join them. And then from there, I just found my passion. It started out as something selfless. And people cringe when I say this, but what I do now is more for me than the troops, because my God, I feel amazing. Like when you find your purpose and you're, it's great to be a good husband, be a good father, be a good friend. But when you can find something where you can touch people's lives every day and wake up and say like, hey, what can I do today to do better than yesterday for somebody else? It just comes back to you, and you feel alive. And it's kind of like a drug, people don't like hearing that, but it is. It really, I feed off of that. And I'll run through a wall for our troops. It just feels so good. But yeah, it's a combination of all those three things to circle back to your question. And I just got lucky with finding a passion where I could give back to those that were making sacrifices and not getting recognized. I mean, there was things going on in the newspaper, on the news, that were more important than giving 30 seconds of what was going on in Iraq and Afghanistan. No one even knew half the time. It wasn't headline page, on the front page or headline news on TV. So I was mad at that. And we talked about turning negative into positive with you. I turned that negative energy that I was feeling about myself and not doing anything into giving back and supporting those who deserve it the most. And that's who serves our great country.
Man, yeah. And listen, for those of you that don't know Dave, but may know me, I can attest that's exactly who you are, right? Like you are so giving and you are so selfless. And, I was actually just fortunate to be in DC a couple weeks ago doing an auction for another organization there. And I spent some time in the museums, of course. And it was the second time I was in the Holocaust Museum. And, just the magnitude and the heaviness of that facility alone makes one want to do good, right? And you took that experience for your family members and you shifted the perspective into what good can I do and who is doing good through that, and focusing on our military. It makes all the sense in the world, right, Dave? And so, man, yeah, it's just so amazing how you've done what you've done. But I want to get a little bit into the numbers, right, and some of the things that make the engine that is OYR run.
Yeah.
Before we do that, right, like people should know this isn't your full-time job, right? Like, so I want to be very clear, right? Like most
Yeah,
people,
my boss will tell you he's probably watching. He'll laugh and tell you that, he pays me to work my full-time job, but then also run a nonprofit on the side.
listen, and you know what? If your boss is watching, I want to say, whoever you are, kudos to you, because not only do you have a great employee and a great person in whatever team it is in Dave, but understanding that he's doing good in the world and that there are some sacrifices now and again that have to be made. And at times it's at our own expense. Like, man, thank you, whoever you are. So in all seriousness, I mean that. But Dave,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about, this isn't your full-time job. So like, how do you juggle?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's not just me. Like, I might be flying the plane, but there's so many people behind the scenes that get the tires ready and fuel the plane. And we have so many great volunteers. They give up hours and hours each and every week, whether it's nights, weekends. Yesterday we had a beautiful day here in South Jersey, and after just like a crappy month of rain and clouds, and I get a text saying 20 care packages are ready from Pam, one of our volunteers, and she just blows my mind that she's in a cold garage, with barely any lights, just packing during this beautiful Sunday. But and the supporters, we have so many corporations and businesses and schools and churches and synagogues and youth groups, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. It's just all encompassing with all the help we get. So it's not just me. I got to make sure you know that and you recognize that. But yeah, for me, I can't sleep past 3 or 4 a.m. I'm usually out of the house by 4:30 or 5, running my yellow ribbon errands in the morning, running around, picking up stuff, dropping off stuff, going to the post office. The post office people, they hate me and love me at the same time. We keep them employed, but at the same time, I show up with 2,000 or 3,000 pounds of care packages every week. So yeah, and then I'm back home online for work, 7:30 in the morning. And I do it, I multitask. I'm an adult, so you got to juggle kids, you got to juggle raising your family and work and your nonprofit stuff and volunteer work, lunches, nights, weekends, whatever it takes, just to keep everything going.
Yeah, no, exactly that, right? Like you said it, you got to juggle and do whatever it takes. And I'm learning that through my work, right? And I can also attest you don't sleep because I don't sleep. And, one of the few friends that I know is up, and I'm fortunate because you're on East Coast time and I'm on Central Standard, that if it's like 3 or 4 in the morning for me, I'm like, well, Dave's up. Let me just shoot him a text and ask what he thought about last night's set list or what's going on in OYR, or hey, did you get the quick 20 I sent you for to help a care package? But talk now about the numbers, right? You said 2,000 pounds a week, and that doesn't come free. And and how much does it actually cost to do what it is you do, whether it's sending the care packages or do the Rockstar Home, welcome homes, and then how do you go about getting that money? How are you funded, right? I think people should know. If you
Yeah.
haven't already scanned that QR code, please help out OYR if you're so inclined. But let's talk some business. What does it take to keep you guys supporting the troops?
Yeah, so great questions, and I'll try to get to all of that. And if I miss anything, just circle back and hit me with reminders. But each care package weighs anywhere from 30 to 40 pounds. We use 30 dozen egg boxes. A shout out to the Rabbits family-owned shop right here in South Jersey who donate, 2,000 or so of those egg boxes to us a year, and to my volunteers who go out and get them for us. And it's kind of a pain to keep having egg boxes on hand all the time. So, but each one's 30 to 40 pounds of all the things you and I take for granted here at home. Here in South Jersey and Philadelphia, we have Tasty Cakes, huge thing that the troops love getting. Girl Scout cookies are a big thing right around now that we're almost all shipped, almost
Sweet.
gone of our Girl Scout cookies. Thank God.
What are their favorites? I like the Samoas. I bet the Thin Mints are the heavy favorites, right?
Well, here on the East Coast, we're not allowed to call them Samoas. That might be frowned upon, but
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Lights here.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay,
That's
back
all right.
to it. The numbers. The numbers.
Yeah, you don't want to call it. But yeah, I haven't touched a Girl Scout cookie in 5 years because I'm so sick of looking at them. Because we're so blessed. Again, like we talked about, it's all encompassing, getting help from the community. We literally get tens of thousands of dollars from the Girl Scouts here in South Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. We about 10 years ago we created a patch for their sashes, and that was the brightest idea and the biggest mistake because these girls love the patch. They don't care about supporting the troops, and they don't want to hear what you're talking about. They just want their patch. But all the cookie moms and dads and guardians out there that put up with the cookie sales to help us, we're full of gratitude for that. So yeah, each box is about 35 pounds on average, costs about $30 to $40 a box to ship. Some of them, we have different zip codes that we ship to, cost $80 to $100, but on average, $35 to $40 a box. Our numbers are a little lower than in past years, and that's due to a lot of reasons: inflation, COVID, support in the community, and then of course, just everything keeps going up. Postage rates go up, food prices go up, snack prices go up. So we're doing less, but we try to do about 50,000 pounds a year of goodies and hygiene products to our troops. Our record was I think 75,000. It's on our website. I can't remember exactly, back in 2019. So that was our greatest year. But the way we fundraise is it's all encompassing with different groups and businesses and corporate sponsors. We just had an event here in South Jersey back in early April, a florist in Medford, New Jersey, at Rose in December. She is a force of nature. And I used a pun there for you, Chris.
I'm picking up on all these. Don't worry, we'll get to it.
But she her son was deployed a couple years ago, and she came to me and said, "What is this? What's Operation Yellow Ribbon?" And I took her to our packing office and I showed her and had her pack her son's first care package. And after that, she was like, "Yep, I'm helping this." And she's literally kept us in business with over $30,000 a year in donations, and then probably another 20,000 of care package items where we fill school buses. People from all over the community and businesses and charities and nonprofits of civic groups and churches and synagogues, they all show up to fill these school buses with care package items, and that's become our biggest event of the year. We just had that last month. But yeah, it's anything from the $5 donation on PayPal to $10,000, $20,000. One time we were blessed to get support from we were on the Today Show a couple of years ago during the Christmas time, and a guy was just sitting in Oregon somewhere getting his oil change and saw me on TV, and he felt touched by it and sent $10,000, and he's been generous every year since. So everything's aggregate. So people always say sorry I couldn't donate more and stuff, but it doesn't matter because it all adds up. And there's so many ways to help. It doesn't have to be financial. You might know someone that, runs a company where they have, extra, foot powder, hey, this foot powder is going to expire in 2 months. We can't put it on the shelves at Target. So, do you want it? Heck yeah. We had a Pearl Jam fan that I'm friends with, lives near you. He's an accountant. And, years ago he would call me and say his client needed a write-off, and, an 18-wheeler truck would show up back then in my driveway and piss my wife off and dump, a trailer load of Quaker granola bars and Gatorade on my driveway.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so there's just tons of ways to help. It doesn't have to be financial.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. There's many ways to contribute, and volunteerism is a great way. And Dave, my hope, and I've seen many folks have already scanned that QR code, but by being on this show and hopefully, taking in some of the ideas I've shared, and we can, put forth together to help OYR not just stay regional, right? We want you to go national, and look at the power of the Today Show, right? You just got a huge donation from that, but there's something I said that I wanted to pick up on and talk a little bit about, right? You mentioned some struggles, and there's been times, whether it's been COVID or you've been impacted by, inflation and such. But, you and I have had some conversations offline, and you shared a point in time where you were considering not doing OYR moving forward. It was becoming, too much, and the funding was becoming a little too daunting. And our favorite band stepped up and supported you. And I want you to talk a little bit about that before we talk about our love of Pearl Jam and why we have what we have and who we are. But man, what they've done is just like, dude, like it's exactly who you are and the support you deserve. So talk about that, would you?
Yeah, well, this was back when we were called the Yellow Ribbon Club, and it was actually run by a mom and dad of a service member, and I was just, a volunteer. So it's a little complicated, but back in 2008, for those who don't know, the lead singer, Ed Vedder, was doing some solo stuff. He had a new album out for a movie, Into the Wild, and he was doing some solo stuff, and I went to a couple shows, and it was amazing. It was nothing. It blew your mind because it's not Pearl Jam. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't metal. It wasn't loud. It was, a mandolin. It was a violin, or I'm sorry, not a violin, a ukulele, acoustic stuff. And he's so artistic and talented, and it was amazing. So I went to California for one show, and I went to Newark, New Jersey for another. And then the next year Eddie was coming here outside New Jersey to Philadelphia at the Tower. And I was like, oh my God, like, okay, you're bringing it to me. I got to go again. Over the years, not to get personal, but Ed's had a relationship with a friend of mine and his family here in South Jersey. He's an adult now, but a lot of people in the Pearl Jam community might remember Aunt Cheryl and Peter. Ed would always spend time with his family, before or after a show. And this is since the late 90s. He's always made time for him. And when Peter was a child, and I got extra tickets to these shows at the Tower in Philadelphia because I had so many people trying for me to make sure. So, I was paying my sister to try and me to try,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a couple extra pairs. So I contacted Aunt Cheryl and I said, hey, do you know about this? And she said, no, what is it? And I told her, and I basically gave their family my extra pair, saying, I think Peter should go to this and experience this. He's never seen Ed perform like this. So long story longer, this is a really hard time back in 2008, 2009 for nonprofits and everybody. I don't know if you remember the financial crisis going on, and, people were losing their homes and their jobs. So like getting donations wasn't the easiest thing. And the Yellow Ribbon Club back then was struggling. We were struggling with donations and the care package expenses. And during these shows, Aunt Cheryl and her family were going with Peter, and, she was on the way to the show, and she messaged me and she said, hey, we got confirmation we're going to see Ed after the show. Why don't you write something up and, about what you do and Pearl Jam's influence on you. And, for those who don't know, I followed this band since, before I could shave, and they've helped me through some tough times. And, when I was younger, with their art and their music and their lyrics. And then, because I was holding a CD in my hand, I don't know if you remember, we used to go to the mall to buy music, but
Yep.
I went to the mall and bought Yield on February 3rd, 1998. And that day at the food court, I became friends with somebody that worked there, my friend Bill, because he saw the CD in my hand, and we were having a pissing contest, who was the bigger fan, who had the most bootlegs, how many shows. And it was friendship, I love at first sight for friendship. And then, he got married early and he was miserable. So he said, you know what, I'm going to find you a wife. And 3 years later, he introduced me to my wife. So I have a family because of Pearl Jam, thanks to Bill. And, so I wrote all this in a letter, and I gave it to Peter's family, and they the first night they gave it to Ed, and then the second night my wife and I were there, and it was her birthday, and we kind of got upgraded thanks to Smitty. I won't go into that, but we were up front row, dead center in a 3,000 seat, place. And Ed comes back from a set break and starts talking about fan mail and letters. And he says, they're all important, but this one really stuck out to me. And he starts talking about Yellow Ribbon Club. And I'm like, oh shit, like he's talking about me, but he doesn't know I'm right in front of him. And my wife looked like Gene Simmons from Kiss. She's crying, her makeup's all over the place.
Oh,
I'm
so
just
funny.
And then, he's talking about how him and the band are going to step up and through the Vitalogy Foundation, help Yellow Ribbon Club out a little bit. And, they put their money where their mouth is. They're activists, and they speak up for the little guy, and they do things for the environment and for women. And just they're such, motivational group. Think about how many nonprofits have spun off because of Pearl Jam's activism, whether it's the Wish List Foundation or, may his memory be a blessing, Tom Pugh with GTL. But
yep.
So Ed's talking about Yellow Ribbon Club, and he's mentioning me and all this stuff, and he kind of glances at us and recognizes us in the crowd right in front of him at his feet, and he's like, "Is it you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "No, seriously, is it you?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he has the house lights on and has us stand up and comes over and hugs us, and I'm pissed at my wife. She washed her hand. He kissed her hand, and but
so did Sia. You heard earlier, right? Sia had to wash her hand after meeting Billy earlier. But that's exactly what I love about that story is it's just a testament to the band that I love that's inspired me, and as you said, has saved your life, has definitely saved mine, right? Like you mentioned an experience that I went through a couple of years ago, and for those that don't know, I was in a mass shooting, and for many, many weeks and months, I didn't turn the TV on, right? And I'd had a deep love of Pearl Jam long before that, but for a good 3 months or so, all it was Pearl Jam in my head, because that was the only thing that could make me happy at 2, 3 in the morning when I was wide awake with insomnia, and having issues. And so I don't say that facetiously. Like, the band literally saved me, because what else would I be doing, And so I know exactly what you're saying, Dave, about just the impact that they've had on many people, let alone you and I. But we wouldn't have met each other if not for them, right? And you go to think about that, and it's like, how impactful has something as simple as music and one band been on many people watching, and you and I both. So it doesn't surprise me to hear, and I know that story, but that's exactly who they are, and that's why we love them.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like, earlier I talked about me being here. I used me being here, the miracle that all the miracles that had to happen for me to be here, and I used that to give back and thank the universe for that, right? Like, think about what the band's been through, not to get into all that, because I could do a show itself, but all those things that they put up with over the 30 plus years, and things for them to be advocates for so many others and do their charity work and write these songs and these lyrics and this music that just, touches us and creates these friendships and these families. And it's just so powerful when you think about it. I mean, we're so lucky, we know, have friends that don't like Pearl Jam and have other bands, and those bands break up or, don't produce music. I mean, God, Tool is awesome, right? But they produce an album, once every 15 years or so,
Sure.
like we have a band, and every album's been like, it's cliche, but it's the soundtrack of our lives, right? Like, when 10 came out in Versus, we were these late teens and early 20s, angry, whatever. And then, as the band grew in their evolution of adulthood, we did lock and step with them, right? Like, No Code was about, like, in my opinion, was kind of coming to terms with becoming an adult, right? And then
favorite album, yeah.
Exactly. And then why. For me, it's not it's close to my favorite album, but the 2006 album, people call it the Avocado album or the self-titled album. Like, that album has a theme for a couple songs where it's really about being anti-war, but and that's the beauty of what Operation Yellow Ribbon and our volunteers do. Like, you don't have to be pro-war. Like, how many people are really pro-war, right? Like, Northrop Grumman maybe, but, like, we're not pro-war. We're pro-love and pro-support our Americans, right? And our service members and their families. And, like, Pearl Jam gets that. Like, So, you have Army Reserve and, Marker in the Sand and Worldwide Suicide. They're all about the troops in some capacity, and what's going on in the Middle East and the war. You know, and then, as the band gets older and they have kids, like there's albums about, starting to think, hey, you know what, I'm mortal. I'm gonna, I'm not gonna be here forever. And my kids are getting older, and
you better give back, right? I mean, and that's where I think the philanthropy of the band has really rubbed off on folks like you or I, right? Obviously, I have a passion for mental health, and I'm so excited, man. Like, in a week, I'm going to be on a bird heading to Seattle for the 2 shows up there, and but most importantly, I'm going to be doing work with Brady Hubler and the Untamed Coffee Company for a week, putting on mental health workshops for anybody that wants to come, but first responders focused, right? And so, being able now to combine my 2 passions of mental health and raising money for great charities like OYR, and still being able to see live music and the band I'm most passionate about just makes me feel great about life. And we want to highlight all the great things that the band has done for us. We can go on for hours and hours and hours, but I want to just, wrap it up real quick here and move on about our day. The great work that you're doing through OYR. If you haven't yet, please scan that QR code, send a few bucks Dave's way and OYR's way to get a few more care packages sent to our brave men and women. But now's your last chance, Dave. Like, where can people connect with you? I know you're active on Facebook. You have a great website, so on and so forth. So how can folks support you guys, from afar?
Yeah, well, again, thank you for having me and giving me this platform and getting this exposure. So there's just so many ways you could help. I mean, like, we take our freedoms for granted, but we also take the fact that, like, I could just go to ShopRite or Walmart or Target right now, and buy what I want, right? We could buy snacks, we could buy toiletries. We get emails once, twice a week from women in the Middle East saying, hey, I'm embarrassed to ask this, but I don't have full access to tampons, right? Or ladies deodorant. Can you send me something? And we're like, mind blown. Okay, how much do you want? There's so many ways to help with that. You could, like I said, if you know somebody, maybe someone that runs a company or has, it could be a school, and at least in the South Jersey, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area, like maybe a principal or a PTA president, they can run a collection drive of care package items for us, and coordinate picking up or dropping off. We have so many amazing stories of just people being touched by what we do, and they're getting stuff from total strangers, but we're grateful Americans. We have people that come home and connect with us when they're home and say, hey, you know what? I was over there for 9 months, and that 5 minutes you distracted me from what I was doing over there really meant a lot to me. And then what happens is, so we send these huge egg boxes, 30 dozen egg boxes. You can see a picture of it on top of our website, what they look like. But, when mail call happens, someone sees someone carrying that 30,000 egg box. They know where it came from. They know, like, we've been doing this for so long. They know it's from South Jersey and it's from Operation Yellow Ribbon. And they become the most popular person in their unit. And then next thing I know, I'm getting hit with like 15, 20 requests from guys and girls with the same APO address saying, hey, my battle buddy over here got a box from you. How do I get one? And what breaks your heart is when, you get a message from someone that says, hey, I'm over here and my family has no money to send me. I never get any mail. Can you send me something? And I'm like, I can't reply fast enough saying, they're 7 hours ahead of us. So, if I'm up at like 4 a.m., I'm replying as fast as I can because they might not check their email for another week or something. I'm like, what do you want? What do you need? We had a canine handler over there in the Middle East. I forget which country. And some special collar broke. And he's like, if I wait for the government to send this, my dog will have killed somebody and I'll be back home already. Can you help me with this?
Yeah.
And we can't do it all the time, but it was like $300. And I'm like, yeah. And I went on Amazon and I bought it for him.
Dude, you like that's exactly who you are, right? Like, you're not even meant to be providing dog collars, but right. There you are, right? And so, Dave, again, thank you. Folks could please scan the QR code. Any way you can help OYR and move the mission forward is so appreciated. Dave, I look forward to highlighting you and all you do moving forward and working with you, and most importantly, I want to see you on the road, right? Like, we got some shows to take in together, and you got to say a couple of your favorite songs. It's pretty obvious. I named my fundraising company after my favorite song, Hail Hail, right? But Hail Hail Auctions, and it's just been so fun to use my experiences to uplift other organizations, and to use this platform to uplift you has been one of the greatest honors so far. So thanks for who you are, my man. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for the friend you are. I could go on and on about the person you are, and how you've supported me through the last 2 years, whether it's taking a call at 4 a.m. when I'm having a panic attack, and that's a true story, you did. And you didn't have to just checking in on me periodically, to just having a conversation about life and music. Like, man, without you, who knows where I'd be. So thank you. And for that, I can't wait to support you in the future, and I would encourage all others to do so as well. So, Sia, come on up for a minute. I want you to say goodbye to Dave, and then we'll sign off. But man, thank you so much for this time. It's been a great show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sia doesn't like to always come back, so she may be hiding, but Sia, we love you too. And why don't we just get into that outro then? And Dave, thanks again, man. Hail, hail to you.
Thanks, Chris.
See, I confused her now. She's going to be